Hey guys, this is Pharaoh 2091, and welcome back to Let's Play Apollo Justice, Ace Attorney. I have a feeling I kept saying Phoenix right, Ace Attorney. If I did, I apologize in my other videos. Well, whatever. Honest mistake. In any case, last time we left off, we just heard a little bit more testimony from Phoenix, and, well, it kind of seems like he's somewhat accusing of Gavin or Christoph of doing something or being there, so something's kind of fishy. We gotta figure out what. Mr. Gavin and Mr. Wright are both in the judge's chamber. Who'd have thought today would turn out like this? May I? Who are you? Huh? What? Hello, sir. Please, pick a card. What's all this about? Is this one okay? Excellent. I have a message for you. The last hand is about to be played. You'll need a trump card to make it. Trump card? The card you have chosen is magical. Use it wisely and the game is yours. That's all. An ace. Where do I remember that card from? 3 aces. 5 aces in all. So wait a minute. Wait. The missing 5th ace. Wow. What? Wait. This blotch of red... Is this blood? Wait a minute. You have your trump card. Now it's up to you to cut the deck and draw. The truth. My father's fate is in your hands. I know you can do it. Wait. Your father's fate? What the hell does she mean? This bloodstained card is my trump card for finding the truth. Her father? Fate? It can't be who I think it is. I fell deep into thought as my mind raced to understand what all this meant. And that girl, I'd seen her recently, but where? That's when I made the connection. Yeah, it's the girl from the locket. So, are you saying that that's Phoenix's daughter? I guess so. That still boggles my mind. How the hell he has a kid? Court will not reconvene. Defense Attorney Christoph Gavin, will you please take the stand? Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne. Yes, Your Honor. Will the witness state his name and occupation? This is farce necessary, Your Honor. Believe me, a far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom. Very, very true. Fine, I'll play along. First, there's one thing we need to have made clear. How did you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith was bald. Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it. Objection! I miss that good old objection. Hey, wait, he's standing right next to us! I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin. And I kind of like this. Have they played this theme yet in this game? It is a very common, like, is what, an investigation theme, I believe, for Phoenix Wright. I think just a little bit remixed for this game. So cool, though. Mr. Wright! What do you think you're doing, Wright? Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off except for that one time. That one time being the incident he was hit. Oh! When Mr. Wright returned from reporting his crime, the hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to be at the scene of the crime, at the time of the crime. In other words, you'd have to be the real killer, is what you're trying to say. Not bad, Apollo. Mr. Gavin? I'm afraid I haven't been entirely honest with the court. What? Oh, I assure you, I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Wait, what? Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation I see little reason to hide anything. Very well. Allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night. Finally! You may begin with your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night? Maybe we can finally get some damn answers here. That fateful night. The rage I'd sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I went down to the basement and peeked through the little window to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, and as he appeared in the photo, a bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that that was not the best place for me to be at the time, and so I left. That's when the call came from Wright. So, you witnessed the murder? For better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed. Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team. Your testimony is clearly disadvantage to your client. Me and words don't get along. What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness stand after all. So you are, Mr. Gavin. And you had to testify as you just did. You had to tell them you saw the night of the crime through that little window. Mr. Wright? You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo? Oh. Mr. Wright's defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared? Yes, Your Honor. I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. This trial is getting weirder and weirder. Oh boy, here we go. So, wonder what the hell we can press on. Maybe about what he saw. He was dead, bald head, conscious girl. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Those were the only three at the scene of the crime? Yes, as far as I saw, at least. Then we're back where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police? 2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't have abandoned my friend. There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime. Justice, I just said I saw no one. Not a soul. But that goes against what Mr. Wright said. Ah, yes, this mysterious 4th person. Who would conveniently be the real killer, I suppose? Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin. Let me pose a question, then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps he can show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary. How can I show something I can't find myself? Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was a 5th ace. The 5th ace? Right. Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out a card has been raised. Can you point to a reason? I think I can, because they pretty much gave it to us right there. It's now or never. The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out. Looks like he's a little uneasy there. But go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take out the 5th ace? Well, I think it's because of this. Received from a mysterious girl, and we think it's the missing 5th ace. Let's examine just a little bit. A single drop of blood marks the front of the card. What about the back of it? Back is red. Huh. Okay. So yeah, I think this is the information we got. The reason is this. Is that an ace? Why it's got blood on it? Right next to the spade. What? Oh, what the hell? He's kind of pissed off now. This is insane. Why wasn't I told about this? Why? Could this be? Could this be the fifth ace? Did I just fissing? What? What the hell did I just say? You know what I meant. My God. Inconceivable. How could you? What are you doing with that card? Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? It's just a fishy card from some fishy girl. Oh, that card? It's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Borscht Boat Club the night after a murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are a stock and trade, after all. No! Impossible! Unacceptable! The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud. A fraud? How can you be so sure? What? I would think the only person here who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene. The real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason? The reason for? Well, for the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime. Where are you going with this? Take another look at the photo and at the victim's head. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down to the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of that blood have fallen on one of those cards? I suppose. The killer then took the card to hide the blood. Regardless, the evidence is not permissible. Oh? Right? Regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence. Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question. What are you talking about? You wanted to know why the killer would have taken a card from the crime scene. And well, now I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see. This is baseless conjecture. Baseless! Yes! Yes! Look at that pose! Yeah, oh god. Memories. Well, not really memories, but for epicness. No, I don't really like that word. It's awesome. There we go. Oh, I assure you it's quite based. What? It's amazing, really, how a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo? Yes? Try picturing the scene of the crime in your head. Oh boy, this is a little new. 3D-esque. Not really 3D, but, you know, hey. The murder took place in a hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table. And before the killer swapped the card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with the scene. Well, what is it? Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given that there was a drop of blood on a card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit. Whose position doesn't fit? The victims, the killer, the witnesses, the second witnesses. Whose position doesn't fit with the bloody card? Well, let's see. I would think it might be the... I think it'd actually be the victim at this point. Represent, there you go. Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem? Ah, crap. I almost X'd out the emulator. That was going to be a big mistake. I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice. Well, look, the victim was struck in the head, sending him back in his chair. You think any blood will fall behind the body, not onto the table in front of him. Duh! Take a look at the photo again. If he bled in this position, the blood will fall on the floor, not on the cards. Why, that's right! So, what does this mean? Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs. Swivel chairs? Oh, man. Man, that's a big thing. Apollo, try turning the chair around. I can do that? Holy crap! That was awesome! The chair was facing the other way? It would have to be. Because, yeah, if he went back in his chair, then that's the only way the blood could go on the table. Oh, I was reading. The victim's chair was facing away from the table. When Mr. Wright returned from the informant to police, which was the chair facing? When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo. that would mean the killer turned the chair back around. Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know now the victim was facing away from the table at the time of the murder. But this creates another significant contradiction. Again? Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location on this diagram contradicts our new understanding of the crime? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, or the second witness? Whose location creates a contradiction? And I think this time around it was actually going to be the killer, because if he's facing that way, wasn't he hit in his front area? I mean, so, yeah, it doesn't make kind of sense now. It's kind of weird. If I can just... There, please. It doesn't have to be spot on, just in the good vicinity of it. The victim was struck from the front, correct? Indeed. Well, wouldn't it be hard for the killer to hit him from the front? Sitting where his indicator currently is? I would think it'd be quite hard, yes. Yes, but what you're saying makes no sense. Why would a victim suddenly turn to face the wall in the middle of a game? I believe a sufficient reason will soon come to light. What? There's something in this diagram that makes far less sense, actually. Look again at the diagram. Apollo, if the victim was struck where he was sitting as shown here, where would his assailant be standing? Try marking on the diagram. What? But there's no room to put a mark where the killer should be. Don't worry. Let's think it through and see what we'll find. We know the victim was facing toward the wall at the time of the crime. That's the only thing we know for sure. Try to forget about everything else. Where would a killer be standing to strike our victim from the front? Well, the only thing that would make sense would essentially be here, I guess, because that's right in front of him. The killer had to be standing, well, here. You get points for flair, but that's about all you're gonna get. I thought I was onto something there too. I hardly need to point out that standing there would be impossible. The victim is facing a solid cupboard, whatever you want to call it. Or are you claiming the killer climbed the cupboard and hit him from above? Ha! It's simple logic, really. If this was the only place the killer could have been standing, then that means that at the very moment of the crime... Wait! I know! At the moment of the crime, the cupboard wasn't there! What's this now? I mean, that's the only explanation. Right, Mr. Gavin? Your Honor, I have a suggestion for the defense. We should arrange to examine the cupboard in the hideout immediately. Bailiff, send a team to the crime scene immediately. Have them try to move the cupboard. Your Honor? What? There's one more thing your men should look for. Please give this to the bailiff. Yes, I see. You do belong in the courtroom, after all, Mr. Wright. I do my best. This is getting pretty awesome now. I wonder what the hell's going on. But let's forge ahead while we wait. Look at the diagram once again. It's been changed. If the killer was standing here at the time of the crime, then this cupboard wasn't here. Which means... Apollo, try moving the cupboard. Man, I really want to end the video, but... Okay, let's move it. There you go. Thank you. You're welcome. As you can see, the cupboard was the problem. At the time of the murder, it has to be as shown here. Okay, that makes sense, but that's still kind of confusing. Now everything is in place to reconstruct the moment of the crime. Oh my! What's this? What is it now? Look at the diagram of the crime scene once more. It appears to be found yet another contradiction. What I believe to be the final contradiction, in fact. Huh? Oh, dang! Notice something, Apollo? Our line of deduction is rapidly approaching its logical conclusion. And now then, Mr. Justice, please point to a new contradicting indicator. Oh my god. Is it a victim, the killer, a witness, a second witness? Which indicator in this diagram contradicts what we know about the crime? My god. Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious which is the contradiction, but I kind of want to save it for next time because I feel like the next part's probably going to be like the little ending of this case. So let's save it. Let's have some time for that episode. So, as usual, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for Let's Play Apollo Justice Ace Attorney. I'll see you guys later.